And we do with our pal Matt Matera from Pewter Report. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing great, Jay. Thanks again for having me on. Always enjoy chatting with you and excited to talk about this Bucs draft.
Yeah, buddy. We'll get a little WrestleMania in there too, because
I had a
we're
feeling.
gonna. All right, let's get right into the Bucks. I just want to fill you in on my thoughts on the pick at 19, Emeka Egbuka. I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, I don't think going wide receiver at that spot is a smart choice, just because of how many how many holes on defense that they have. Love the player, don't necessarily love the pick. And I understand why they did it, Matt, right? It's almost as a prevention in case, guys get banged up. But man, if any team out there loses their top two receivers, like, you're screwed. Yeah. If Higgins and Chase go down, or Devontae and AJ Brown go down, or Hill and Waddle go down, like, they're screwed anyway, right? I understand that. But when you have a need at edge, when you have a need at inside linebacker and corner and safety and D tackle, like, it's not just one spot on defense. It's almost like you're planning for like the worst case scenario. If everybody's healthy in week one, Egbuka might be your wide receiver 4. And it worries me a little bit that your guy that you're picking at 19 might not be out on the field for your first snap in week 1 in 2025. What did you make of the whole selection and the whole idea that Jason Light and his crew decided to go with?
I was certainly a little bit surprised that they went with Egbuka and a wide receiver, because Matthew Golden was still available there. He ended up going to the Packers a couple of picks later, but I was a big fan of Matthew Golden if the Bucs were going to go with the wide receiver. Right. But knowing that guys like Donovan Ezaraku, the edge rusher from Boston College, was still available and is still available going into day 2, knowing that pretty much every single corner was available at the time, it was a little surprising to me. But what it tells me, especially with a lot of these big names still available on day 2 going into rounds 2 and round 3, is that Jason Light and the Bucs front office feel good about who's still available on the defensive side. They're not obviously turning a blind eye to the fact that they need a lot of help on the defensive side, but that's partially why Hassan Reddick plays into the mix. So Egbuka, I actually believe, is the most NFL-ready wide receiver right now. That doesn't necessarily mean his ceiling as high as Ted McMillan, who the Bucs are now going to see twice a year since he went to Carolina, and some of the other wide receivers. But he's ready right now. He has a Chris Godwin style of play. Was at Ohio State for quite a while. You don't see guys stay at one spot anymore in college football. So I understand the pick. I understand the insurance policy. I think it can help take a little bit less off of the plate of an older Mike Evans and Chris Godwin as he's, rehabbing. And I think he'll push Jalen McMillan for wide receiver 3. I don't think it's penciled in right now that McMillan is wide receiver 3. We have to remember Josh Grizzard, comes from being the wide receivers coach with the Miami Dolphins, where he worked with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and some talented guys. So it's just another weapon for Baker Mayfield. And I think with everybody that's still around on defense on day 2, I wouldn't be surprised if every pick from here on out in the rest of the 2025 draft is defense. And that's fine to me, because Jason Light has made his best picks in round 2, round 3, and round 4. I mean, we can look at last season specifically. I know it hasn't worked out with Chris Braswell in round 2, but you had Tyke Smith, you had Jalen McMillan, and then the best of them all, Bucky Irving, in round 4 with Smith and McMillan in round 3. So they can still find some really quality guys on defense today.
Yeah, and that's what I wonder too, Matt, because like we say that these picks on defenses have worked out well, but I think if we closely analyze these picks on defense, like, as much as we love the potential of Tyke Smith last year, I feel like watching these games, and you watch everyone as I do, like, it's been more potential than what we really saw from Tyke Smith, right? I didn't look at many games last year when I go, wow, Tyke Smith did all of these great things. It was a game here that was good, banged up a little bit, didn't really see much in certain games. Like, I feel like we fell in love with the idea of Tyke Smith a little bit more than the actual play. Antoine Winfield Jr. didn't play all that well. Obviously, love that pick. But, Servassier, there's a lot of hope on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. And that's what bothers me, is that great teams don't rely on hope. We hope that Servassier Dennis is going to be healthy. Like, at the end of last year, everybody was like, well, we don't know when he's going to come back. That's never good, right? We hope that he's going to be healthy. We hope that a guy like Chris Braswell is going to take a step forward. Yaya Diaby's talking about, I'm an elite pass rusher. Dude, you have not had a 10-sack season. Kalijah Kancey's talking about, I want to lead the league in sacks. bro, I want you to be able to track on Jaden Daniels and stay healthy for 17 games, right? That's what worries me, Matt. Do you see that perspective for myself where we hope that Jamel Dean can stay healthy if he's still here? We hope that Zion McCollum takes a step forward. It's like, geez, man, how many sure things are there on the Buccaneers defense right now outside of, we hope that Hassan Reddick does good in his 1 year. I mean, other than Vita Vea and what we have from an aging Levante David, I feel like there's not many sure things on defense. And that's why I look at the 19th selection and I go, man, if we're banking on a lot of hope, give me as many high talented guys that you can out of college that can make contributions right away.
As Morgan Freeman said in Shawshank Redemption, hope is a dangerous thing. I completely agree with you in terms of the injury aspect of it. Like, I enjoy the player, Servassier Dennis, but what I don't enjoy is that he's only available for 6 games in a season. That doesn't do the Bucs any good. And, sometimes it's bad luck when it comes to injuries. Like Chris Godwin and his ankle injury last year, that was bad luck. That was essentially a hip drop tackle, which, that's a conversation for another day. But these other like soft tissue injuries and things of that nature can get frustrating. I push back on Tyke Smith a little bit. Now, the injuries, of course, again, the injury is the biggest thing. But when he was available, I mean, he was tied for the team lead in forced fumbles. So on a team that wasn't getting turnovers, he was the one guy that was actually trying to make something happen. He had that big interception against the Raiders later in the season. I know it's the Raiders and they're not a good team, but they were driving into the red zone. Tyke Smith was able to stop it right then and there. I think if Tyke Smith, if they move him to strong safety next to Antoine Winfield Jr., if those guys are able to stay healthy, and that's the buzzword is health for this team, if they're able to stay healthy, I still think the world of Tyke Smith and what he can do. As far as linebacker, going back to Servassier Dennis, you never really see a lot of linebackers go in the first round. That's why Jahad Campbell was the first guy, and it took until the second to last pick to get that done. So I have a feeling the Bucs are going to load up on one position twice. It's either going to be inside linebacker or it's going to be at the cornerback position, which would help out with a lot of things. Because it's not just that Jamel Dean gets injured a fair amount, is that he gets injured in games like in the first quarter. And then you're kind of screwed because if you know Jamel Dean is out on a Wednesday going into Sunday's game, you can prepare with bringing in an extra corner or getting that corner extra reps. The problem is Jamel Dean gets injured in the first quarter, and then the player that maybe would have been his backup isn't even dressed for the game because they had to, fill out the rest of the roster in one way or another. And part of the Jamel Dean injury was the fact that Bryce Hall then got injured in the first game of the season. I think we're kind of overlooking that Bryce Hall was going to be the top backup corner for this team last season, but he got injured in week 1. I'd be very surprised if that happens again. So there's no doubt that they have to address corner and inside linebacker. I could see inside linebacker being the first pick that they make in the second round coming up later tonight. So they're going to double up at one of those positions, and my guess would be either linebacker or corner.
Yeah, I think Schlesinger from UCLA, that seems to be a guy is that one of the guys who are some of the guys that you're keeping an eye on either at the linebacker or corner spot here today or tomorrow?
Demetrius Knight, the linebacker from South Carolina. So he's a little bit on the older side. He's actually 26 and he's married, and him and his wife already have a child. So you want to talk about like maturity? He's going to be like as mature as some of the other guys in the league or on this team. Jeffrey Bassa, the inside linebacker from Oregon. He is a pass coverage type of linebacker. Used to play safety, now then moved to linebacker. So I have my eye on him. I'm a big fan, and in basketball, Team Shaq, but in the NFL and college football, I'm a big fan of Kobe Bryant, the corner from Kansas. He's probably more of a third-round pick, maybe even a fourth-round pick, but his innate ability to get after the football, be in the face of the wide receiver, whoever he's in front of, I think he would be a perfect fit for Tampa Bay. And then another kind of, I don't want to say wild card, but Savon Revel, the cornerback from ECU, coming off of an injury. But, I mean, he's got those instincts and intangibles that I see with, like, when Darrelle Revis was covering. Just being able to cut in front of a receiver, knowing where that receiver is going to run his route before he even makes a break on the football. If he can be fully healthy, which, again, kind of backfires with what we just talked about before, if he slides all the way down to when the Bucs are on the clock in the second round, I think he may be the pick as well. But there's certainly going to be more options, and I trust Jason Light that he feels good about who's still available on defense.
Better chance of the Bucs trading back, or trading up today. Do you think either one of those will be likely to happen?
I think it's quite likely. Either way, but if I had to choose one, I would say maybe trade back and get another. Because remember, they don't have a 6th-round pick. Now, they wouldn't just trade back just to recoup a 6th-round pick,
Right.
but maybe get a 2nd, 3rd-round pick. Again, what they did last year, where they went Tyke Smith and then 2 or 3 picks later went Jalen McMillan. So there is a history of that. I can see them trading back a little bit, recouping another 3rd-round pick, maybe even a 2nd, 4th-round pick, and really just adding a lot of different pieces on the defensive side.
Were you surprised that they didn't trade back at 19 because all those guys on defense were there?
Well, I think it's the same as a couple of other teams in front of them. Like, we were seeing reports that a couple teams in front of the Bucs were also fielding trade offers, but nobody wanted to trade up. So I think Tampa Bay wanted to, but they just couldn't because it takes 2 to tango in that aspect of it. But I think they definitely would have wanted to trade back, considering who was still available, but just wasn't able to get it done.
Yeah, I was looking at some of these drafts. Obviously, the Giants had the big trade back in to get Jackson Dart. I thought that could have been a nice trade partner there. They waited to get him at 25. I thought it worked out really well for them, trading their 2nd and swapping 3s. I think it was, really, I thought it was a smart move for them, getting their guy before somebody else jumped in. What did you make of that deal, trading up to get Jackson Dart? And what did you think about Shedeur Sanders not going in round 1?
Yeah, I was a little surprised that Shedeur didn't get drafted by anyone. Of course, once he kept dropping, Pittsburgh seemed like the ideal location. And then Pittsburgh made a very non-Pittsburgh type of pick with Derek Harmon going to Oregon. I mean, I didn't really see that coming. You would have thought, like, all right, they need as much help as possible on offense, despite the fact that they traded for DK Metcalf. I'm a little surprised. I mean, Shedeur seemed like the number 2 quarterback after Cam Ward went first, but that's why you do all the scouting, and Daboll has that history of being able to develop Josh Allen when he was over in Buffalo. So, Daboll kind of knows that this is his last straw. He needs to figure it out with the quarterback right here and right now. So if he likes Jackson Dart for whatever reason, I mean, the last time the Giants had an Ole Miss quarterback, it kind of worked out pretty good, right, Jay?
Yeah, I'm not going to give him the Eli treatment quite yet, but
are we really complaining about? Are we really complaining about championships in New York when there's been so few and far between in the last 2 decades?
Listen, Eli was my guy. He's, I think, the biggest enigma in sports history.
I agree with that.
There's no, and I said this before and I'll say it again, there is nobody in sports that has or will ever have a career like Eli Manning.
Yeah.
Because if you take out those 2 years, he is a huge bust. And a guy that you're like, what the hell happened with this dude? But instead, he wins 2 Super Bowls. He beats the greatest quarterback in both of them, including the undefeated season. The way that he was able to play, those stretches of them in the playoffs, like you went into Green Bay twice. You beat Rodgers and Brett Favre in freezing cold weather. You beat Dallas. You beat San Francisco. You beat the Bucs. Yeah, it's crazy. And then to make 2 of the greatest throws of all time with David Tyree and Mario Manningham, and to beat Brady both times. Like I still to this day don't even know how the hell that whole thing happened. But hey, that's Eli's Eli, and from all accounts, he's like a great dude, and I believe that like great things happen to great people. I want to ask you about the Jets too. I know there was an opportunity for them to possibly get a tight end, but I think the pick of Mebo there, it makes a lot of sense. You got Fashanu last year from Penn State. The Mekhi Becton thing obviously didn't work out, but man, you want to protect Justin Fields. You got a phenomenal running back, and I'm glad that they didn't trade him. I think Garrett Wilson will do better without Devontae Adams there. I like the pick. I really do, and I think he's a guy that can have a huge impact. Maybe not early on, but man, I think the sky's the limit for that kid out of Mizzou.
Yeah, I was perfectly fine with the pick. It would have been exciting to go wide receiver or Tyler Warren, the tight end, but I totally get it. I mean, as we've seen here in Tampa, building through the trenches is the way to go. I don't care what team you are. I don't care who you have at the skill position. If you don't have the trenches figured out, you're not going anywhere. Now, I don't buy the sense of like, all of a sudden the Jets have one of the best offensive lines in the league because Aaron Rodgers, I know he's older and wasn't able to move around, but he was still getting hit a ton.
Right.
Now you have Justin Fields, and obviously he's much quicker and more mobile. And yes, like you said, you have Garrett Wilson, a wide receiver. They drafted a receiver last year, Malachi Corley, who I was a big fan of at the time. So I'm not saying he's going to be their number 2, but you could certainly, see some improvement and development from him and still go out and get a talented wide receiver in this year's draft as well. So I had no problem with Membu, with the trenches. You lock down your 2 offensive tackles, the most important spots on the offensive line. Joe Tippmann's a pretty good center for this team. Elijah Vera Tucker is an above-average guard, but he gets hurt all the time, so I can't bank on him playing 17 games. It's a new regime. For the Jets at this point, they haven't made the playoffs in 14 years. I'm not going to get hyped or excited about anything until they actually prove it, but I'll never complain about improving in the trenches.
No doubt. Before we get to some wrestling talk, what do you think the Bucs make any other picks on the offensive side of the ball this weekend? And if they do, what position?
Ooh, good question. It would be a late day 3 pick, like maybe even that 7th round. The only one I can really see is either a tight end if they don't fully think that Cade Otton would sign an extension because he's in the last year of his deal. The one that has a little more validity to it would maybe be running back, just for the sense that Rachaad White's in his last year. And I'm not buying that Rachaad White's going to get traded. There's still so much value for Rachaad White on this team as second string running back, but the third down back. He's the best route runner on this team. He's the best pass blocker on this team. And another team that is going to trade for Rachaad White for what? You're getting 1 year out of him, and then he hits free agency. But I could see maybe I'd be surprised if Rachaad White is back next season. So maybe you draft the guy and then start to develop him, and maybe he can have a big role in 2026. Besides that, I think it's going to be all defense. Any
offensive lineman questions?
No, because they re-signed Ben Bredesen and they drafted Elijah Klein last season. So, they could try to replace Robert Hainsey, but I think that kind of was the Elijah Klein pick. So maybe Jason Light loves his offensive lineman, but I think this might be the year where they actually don't go with an offensive lineman.
Yeah, and they got Charlie Heck too, which I know he was at the Lightning game last night with the guys. And everything that I've seen from Charlie Heck, he's just one of those guys that he's a good help out in a bunch of different spots, like happy to be here. Everybody loves kind of guys. So I'm like, all right, there you go. You have your 2 backups, and then you go from there. All right, let me ask you, and we'll start off with the night 1 main event of WrestleMania. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, CM Punk. Paul Heyman turns on both of his buddies, his best friend and his tribal chief, to join up with Seth Rollins. And then Monday Night Raw, they reveal that Braun Breaker joins that crew. I love it. I can't wait to see who else they add because I don't think they're going to stop there. What is your take on the WrestleMania main event, joining up with Braun Breaker, and who you think that they could add to the group?
The match itself was fantastic even before, Paul Heyman did everything that he did. Just 3 great performers, the highest level of the WWE, the top guys for sure. A lot of fun. Triple threats I always like, and I know they always do it at WrestleMania because anything can happen. Anything can get involved. You can use weapons and all that stuff. And they didn't even use a ton of weapons until, the chair at the end. It was one of those things. There was a lot of speculation about it, but it was one of those things where I was fine that it was somewhat a little predictable because it was still so poetic, and they did it the right way. And, Roman being so upset when Heyman went with CM Punk, gave him the chair, even in the beginning when he took off the Ulafala and was like, do I give it to Paul or do I just say kind of F it? I love the storytelling within the match itself. Heyman screaming at CM Punk after he gave the chair, after the low blow, and after he gave the chair to Roman, being like, you did this to me and everything like that. And then everything with turning on Roman, I thought was incredible. Braun Breaker, that was oh, damn, Braun Breaker's with them right now. I thought that was super cool, getting an enforcer involved. I'm all for, adding someone else, but I wanted to let it breathe a little bit. How with the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa didn't come for quite a while, and then eventually Fatu showed up and everybody else. I don't think they need to add someone immediately right away. As far as who would be a good fit in that group, I'm racking my brain. I don't totally know. A lot of people have said Austin Theory, but Theory's been around for a while. I think it'd have to be someone that's only been here for a little bit. Some people have said Karrion Kross, but then he cut that promo, and it seems like he's kind of on his own run right now, and maybe could get jump started to something. So, unfortunately, I don't really have a good answer right now as I try to rack my brain across the roster. But like, even if it's just the three of them, I'm totally fine with that. I don't think it has to be an Evolution 2.0. Like, just kind of be your own thing, and I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I would like Austin Theory, break him away from Waller. They need something to take him serious because he's just such a joke right now. And you know that they have high hopes for him. I like Carmelo Hayes as an option too. But some of these guys, as our good buddy Corey Long reminded me last night, he's like, when they do and they get into some scraps with the baby faces, somebody has to take losses. And I don't know if Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins are going to be taking a bunch of losses. TB Punk Film saying Trick Williams. I wouldn't hate Trick Williams. I wouldn't be surprised if they go down to NXT. I know another talk has been Fraxium with Nathan Fraser and Axiom. Have him take off his mask, the tag team from NXT. I wouldn't hate that either. It's got to be somebody fresher, somebody newer, somebody that can really utilize this. And that's why, as much as I would love to see like a Drew McIntyre, it doesn't make sense for him. I need a young guy to be able to step up. And then night 2, John Cena, Cody Rhodes. What did you make of that whole thing? I was surprised, and I'm not thrilled with The Rock's comments on Pat McAfee. You're the guy that spearheaded this whole thing. Rock said that Ari Emanuel contacted him from TKO. They were worried about ticket sales being soft for Elimination Chamber. The Rock comes. They do that incredible ending. And that ending was better than WrestleMania Night 2. What did you make of Cena winning, Travis Scott being there, and The Rock not being there?
We should be thanking John Cena that we got to witness history. John Cena winning his 17th championship. We are all witnesses. We are all a part of history. Well-deserved for John Cena. And he's absolutely right with everything that he said. You're all herds of sheep. You all just follow one way or another and say, give me more, give me more. Oh, I predicted this. I didn't get it. Therefore, I'm upset. Oh, but you still like me and you're going to root for me. And all Cody Rhodes does is pander to the crowd. And now you're booing him. Have people not been listening to John Cena? He said, I am going to ruin wrestling. I'm going to win the belt and I'm going to ruin wrestling. And what happened? Travis Scott took an hour and a half to get down the ramp and then finally interfered. There wasn't The Rock. People are upset. They are angry. This is exactly how John Cena drew it up. He is going to ruin wrestling. And good for you, John Cena, because you did everything right, and people were still mad at you, and they were still pissed at you for years. And all of a sudden, they want to say, thank you, John. And he's like, nah, I don't need your thank yous because I'm going to take the title home with me. I thought it was a great main event finish. Travis Scott played his part. Cody got his receipt back on him hitting his finisher, but the right guy won, and I'm very excited to see what happens moving forward.
Him against Randy Orton. You down with that?
I'm down with the build and the promos and the talking crap to each other. I don't think the match is going to be all that great. No. I hope it's a no DQ match where everything get involved. Because
it's Backlash is in St. Louis, so it makes a lot of sense. For sure. I did see something yesterday online about John Cena winning Money in the Bank and then just throwing the briefcase.
Yeah, I kind of like that too. Yeah, if he's going to ruin wrestling, and he has.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, The Rock being like, "Oh, I didn't want to be a part of it," when the whole story was about him was ridiculous. So, that part I do agree with.
I think that's how he got him. That's how I think he could have got more heat. As much as I love that John Cena is getting this, the one thing that I don't like is that we've gotten to a point now where John's doing all these things, he's acting a certain way, but and I love that Triple H is so involved, and I love that he tries to listen to the fans, but sometimes they miss on heel turns for people that they don't want to, like, fans don't want to boo, right? Like, nobody wants to boo John Cena. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I understand he's trying to ruin wrestling. I understand that's the route they're trying to go to make him a heel. But man, if you listen to the promo on Monday night, like, people want to celebrate John Cena breaking the record. This is something that has been talked about for so long. And like, I feel like, and I understand that's the gimmick. You want to ruin wrestling, but Matt, as a wrestling fan, like, I wanted to celebrate John Cena. I'm not going to look back on that and be like, oh, wow, that was such a great storyline. I'm going to be looking back on that as like, dude, John Cena should have been celebrated for breaking the most prestigious record in wrestling. But instead, we have to go with the storyline because of what happened with The Rock. I just feel like WWE is missing the boat a little bit on this entire thing. And I give John Cena all the credit in the world because I think so many of other people would have screwed this up so bad. He's putting on a masterful performance, but regardless, the fans want what they want. They want to cheer John Cena.
They still do want to cheer him whenever he comes out. I think with him turning heel, it was always that, oh, what if he turned heel?
Right.
Or it's like, oh, he's going to retire, and we never saw him turn heel, even though you could argue the Doctor of Thugonomics was a heel when he started out. But, that was still like 25 years ago. I don't know. What if he wins that Money in the Bank and says, oh, I'm never going to use it. Like, screw you guys. I'm going to be the champ. Then he loses the title, say it like SummerSlam or something like that, and then goes on the babyface tour for, the last 2 months of his career. And then he goes, hey, I forgot. I still have that Money in the Bank. And he wins the title one more time. And now he's an 18-time champion. And he goes out as a babyface.
I love that. And that's why, and I know when we had our roundtable last week, everybody was picking Cena. And that's why I was trying to think the other way around. I was trying to think, what if he lost at WrestleMania and then got his heat by just beating the crap out of Cody? Maybe he hits the AA on Brandy, right?
Does something like in front of their daughter.
But that's what I'm saying. Do something where you get major heat, and
that would have been dastardly.
Yeah. Exactly. I want it to be something evil, right? Like what Randy Orton used to do, and he punted Cena's dad in the head all these years ago. And then the way that he gets the belt, there's no way that this year ends with him going back babyface, right? So that's my whole thing. I don't know how much longer you can hold on to this. He's going to lose the belt eventually. Right, but to who?
I don't know. I think he's taking it with him.
Yeah, man. Right. You're totally.
I will say I am slightly tired of. So the last 3 promos in between, the WrestleMania match, it was him and Cody. Cody ends it with doing the finisher. Then it was the Friday right before WrestleMania. It's him and Cody. Cody just ends up doing the finisher to him, and that's it. And then on Monday, it was him cutting a promo. Randy Orton hits the RKO, and that's it. That's the end of the finisher. At some point, John's got to get the
upper
other
hand
shot on the opponent. And I get it, he beat the crap out of Cody at the Elimination Chamber. But at some point, storylines go through it with the heel beating the crap out of the baby face. And it's like, oh my God, he's going to get his revenge at the PLE now. And so I'm hoping he'll get one back on Randy Orton, because it can't just be John Cena gets knocked out every single promo and then wins the title in a heelish way.
You got that right. Matt Matera, Pewter Report, Matty4_Matera. Check out Pewter Report. They're going live all weekend long, man. Right there at One Buccaneer Place, the Advent Health Training Center. They were live last night. I tuned in for a little bit. There was a ton. I think you had 1,000. There's so many viewers last night. Yeah. I know you guys will be live today and tomorrow, correct? What times?
Yeah, we always start an hour before the draft starts. So tonight we start at 6 p.m. on our YouTube channel. You can see it on pewterreport.com as well. And then Saturday we start at 11 a.m.
Awesome stuff. Matt, you are the best. Give my love to Scott and everybody. And happy draft weekend, buddy. And we'll talk soon. Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot, Jay. Appreciate you.